Welcome to my channel. My name is Ria, and in this video we are going to talk about the astrology that's going on right now, and we are going to talk about the new moon happening in the sign of Taurus. So I haven't posted very frequently in the past 2.5 months. I think all of March and April been pretty inconsistent. But now I will be posting at least twice a month on my YouTube channel, so just wanted to mention that. And let's get into the astrology. So this video we are going to do it a little different. We're going to talk about the astrology in general first, because there's a lot going on, and then we will talk about the new moon, because that way you'll be able to understand the context before we add the new moon to the mix. So let's talk about it. The first thing I wanted to talk about is the Mars-Pluto opposition. This is the third time Mars and Pluto are opposing each other. The first time was in November, the second time was in Jan, and this is the third and final time, and that's because Mars was retrograde. If you recall, from December 6th to Feb 23rd, Mars was retrograde. So this is the third and final opposition. The first one was when Pluto was in Capricorn and Mars was in Cancer, and now if you see, it's in Aquarius and Leo, right? And what this means in a nutshell is this is an extreme transformation, ending, change to the way we do things, to the way we take action, to the way we relate to ourselves, to the way we view ourselves and our identity, right? Mars is the sign that rules. Mars is the planet that rules the sign of Aries. Aries is about our identity, it's about our ego, it says I am. And here we have Pluto, the planet of transformation, opposing it, right? So this is a complete shift in our identity, in how we get things done, in how we take action, in how we view ourselves. And that's even more exaggerated because Pluto here changed signs between this opposition, between the first and the third opposition, right? From Capricorn, 29-degree Capricorn was the first opposition, and now the third one is at 3 degrees of Aquarius. So in a way, it's about our whole identity shifting slowly since November to kind of integrate into this Pluto and Aquarius energy. Because if you recall, Pluto has changed signs after many years, right? Just to give you a little background, 2008 to 2023 March, it was in Capricorn, and then it entered Aquarius, went back into Capricorn, entered Aquarius, back into Capricorn, entered Aquarius. So it did all that, and now finally it's in Aquarius for the next 2 decades or so. So it's a very slow moving sign. So when it does this, right, which it doesn't do very often, to me it says it's a big transformation to how we do things, how we view ourselves and our identity. It's undergone a shift. That being said, generally speaking, this is a very intense energy, right? Because Mars is not just about our identity and taking action. It's also a very aggressive energy. It's also an energy that is very impulsive, right? And Pluto is power. Pluto is, when it touches a planet like Mars, the tendency to take impulsive action based on power increases, right? Because if there's a positive to an energy, there's a negative as well, right? The positive to Mars Pluto is this extreme transformation that can take place in our ability to get things done. On the other hand, the not so positive is this power leading to impulsive decisions and action. So this is the balance of this energy, and it's extremely important because since November we have been working on it, and now it's finally done right before this new moon point. Now, before we move on, I just want to mention that this new moon is at 7 degrees of Taurus, and if you put it in context to this Mars Pluto, by the time we reach this new moon point, the sun and the moon both would have squared Pluto and Mars. And what that means is a few days before this new moon, that finality of changing how we do things, or how we view ourselves, or how we identify ourselves, all the things that I just mentioned with Mars Pluto reached a finality. And this new moon is kind of bringing in the new version of ourselves, or the new version of how we get things done in a way. That's the first thing. Now the next thing I want to talk about is all the Pisces that's there. See, we have Pisces, we have Aries, we have Taurus. And if you recall, in the month of March and April, we had both Venus and Mercury retrograde. They both retrograded in Aries and Pisces, right? And now Venus is finishing up with Pisces, about to enter Aries. Mercury is already in Aries, right? But both Mercury and Venus did retrograde in the sign of Pisces in the past 6 weeks or so, right? And a lot of Pisces was highlighted. And Pisces is the end of the zodiac. It's the last sign. It's the complete end of a cycle. It's the subconscious. It's where things finish, things close out, so that we can begin a new cycle in Aries. So with both Mercury and Venus retrograding, partly in Pisces because they did retrograde in Aries as well, a lot of the past few weeks has been about dealing with the past, whether in our subconscious or whether the past coming back into our life. These are two separate things for us to review that past and let it go, right? Because we have Saturn here as well, and Saturn is now at the end degrees of Pisces as well. And Saturn is also a slow planet, right? It's going to spend about 2.5 to 3 years in a sign. And wherever Saturn goes, our focus goes, right? Because Saturn is the ruler of this reality. And whenever it's in a sign, we do a lot of hard work related to that sign. So generally speaking, with Saturn in Pisces, since March 2023, we've been doing a lot of work on closing out the past, on closing out past cycles that span decades. We've been doing a lot of that work. We've been doing a lot of work on our mental health, on our subconscious mind, on those sort of things. And with Venus and Mercury retrograding there, it was like the final cleanup, you can say, of the past, right? Because both went back into Pisces. And it was like, these are the things that are still lingering on from the past. These are the little memories. These are the little things that you've still not let go of. So for the past 6 weeks or so, we've done a lot of that review about the past. And now finally, with Mercury in Aries and Venus moving on into Aries, we are finally kind of saying, okay, we've done a lot of that work. And if you see here, Venus just finished meeting up with Saturn, right? Saturn is a serious planet. It's about decisions and commitments. It's about streamlining things. It's about being real about things. So with this conjunction, what could have really happened is the final decision, the final commitment, the final process of closing out the past has taken place, because Venus has conjuncted Saturn and now is moving on for good. It's moving on because it's not going to go back to Saturn. So this is what I wanted to say, that the past 6 weeks have been a lot of review. And since April 13th, Venus has been direct, so forward movement has started slowly, right? And currently, all planets are direct. And that is extremely important, because since December of 2024, we've had retrograde energy, a lot of it. Mars retrograde, 6th December to Feb 23rd, Venus retrograde, 2nd March to April 13th, Mercury retrograde thrown in between that, and finally April 13th, planets started moving forward. So now we see that forward movement, and we've also had eclipses, right? So it's been a little too much about review. It's been a little too much about putting the pause on moving forward, and more like going backwards, reviewing things so that we can move forward now. And speaking of moving forward, Mars will get out of its shadow zone May 2nd. Venus will get out of that zone May 16th, and Mercury is already out of that zone by the time we reach this new moon points. So to sum it up, all planets are direct, so energies will start picking up, forward movement will start happening more and more as compared to the beginning of this year. For the past 5 months, you can say, all the way from December to April. But after these planets get out of their shadow, that's when we see real forward movement, because that's when we complete the entire process of review. But yes, energy is more forward moving now than it has been since December, right? Let's just put it that way to keep it simple. Now, the next thing I want to mention is the fact that we've had another major change in the middle of all this, right? Neptune here has changed signs, and Neptune is a slow planet. It's not a very fast moving planet, it's slow. So from 2011 up until now, it was in the sign of Pisces, and now this year it has changed signs into Aries. That's a big deal, right? Neptune rules the sign of Pisces, so it was there since 2011. Now it's in Aries, but it will go back into Pisces, right? And this is the sign, Aries, where both Saturn and Neptune will meet up next year, right? Next year they will meet in Aries, 0 degrees of Aries, the absolute beginning of the zodiac. And what that means is that these 5 months, right, especially the past 6-8 weeks, with so much retrograde and so many energies in Pisces, this was like an intense closing out of the past of decades, so that we can prepare for the new that's to come. And if you've been watching me, I've been saying that the new is coming in and the old has been going out since the last year. And we saw a big change last year. This year is another year of even more changes, more new beginnings coming in, but it's more like we'll see glimpses of that beginning, and finally next year those new beginnings will be here fully. This year there is still an underlying focus on closing out a lot of the past, but we've done such a lot of work, majority of the work I would say, in these 2 months of March and April, in closing out so much of the past. The reason I say that we still have not fully closed it out is because all the planets that are changing signs, and since last year into this year, we'll have all outer planets changing signs, right? Pluto has already changed signs. Neptune has already changed signs. We are waiting for Uranus to change signs, which it will this year. Saturn will also change signs, right? So we are seeing all these slow energies changing signs so close to each other, but Neptune, Uranus, and Saturn, all three will come back rather, to the previous sign to kind of finish up whatever is left behind towards the end of this year. And next year is when we fully step in to all the new things we are getting glimpses of this year. Right, so there's a lot of new going on, and if you see this, Saturn and Neptune are very close, right? 27 degrees of Pisces and 0 degrees of Aries, they're very close. And what this means is that the conjunction that they will have next year, next Feb, I believe, at 0 degrees of Aries, is now very palpable in its energy, is now very visible. We can feel it building up. They're so close, but we are not quite there yet. So that's the thing with these slow moving planets, right? It can feel like a long few months of build up before the final thing happens, right? And sometimes what happens is the change is so intense, but it's so slow that we don't remember how we've changed or how far we've come or what we were before the change took place. Especially with Pluto, right? Like, it's so subconscious, it's so subtle, it's so deep. And especially with these outer, slower moving planets, it can feel slow, and it can feel like the transformation has kind of just happened, and it may be a big one, but it doesn't feel like sudden, you know, especially when the planets move back and forth like this. So that's where we are at in the astrology. That's why I said that there's a lot going on, because apart from this new moon in Taurus that we have pretty much every year, right, the background is what gives it the context, and the background energies are very unique. The outer planets changing signs so close to each other, the retrogrades in Pisces, Saturn in Pisces there, and let's not forget the North Node Rahu is also in Pisces, right? So a lot going on. And let me just sum it up once, because this is a whole lot of energies, and trying to fit this in a short video is a little challenging. So let's talk about this again a little bit, and then let's just talk about the new moon ones. So the next thing I want to talk about is the fact that right now we do have this Uranus North Node aspect building up. Uranus is the planet of change, right? And it is aspecting 60-degree angle with Rahu, the North Node, and even Saturn, right? It is building up that aspect with Saturn as well. And what this can mean is sudden changes that will move us closer to our future, right? Rahu is the future. Rahu is where we are headed. It's where we are supposed to go. And with Saturn, this can be decisions that can lead us to the future, decisions that can be a little, that can feel like they've come out of nowhere. But with Uranus, that's how it is, right? It can be like, I just decide this, and that's going to take you forward to where you're supposed to go. It's that sort of energy where it just feels fated also in a way, because the nodes are Rahu is there, North Node, which is karmic, Saturn is karmic, and then you have Uranus aspecting this. So this can be like this sudden moment of this realization or decision or seriousness that's like, yeah, this is probably it. You know, this is what I need to do to move forward, that sort of energy. And this new moon, with keeping in mind the fact that it has already made these aspects with Pluto and Mars Pluto is done now, Venus Saturn is done, Venus is getting ready to enter Aries, Mercury is already in Aries, Mars and Venus will get out of their shadow shortly after this new moon. Mars on 2nd May and or 3rd May, 2nd 3rd May, and Venus on 16th May. It's now forward moving, right? More so, it has more so than the past 5 months since December, even before that, because Mars entered shadow, I think, in October, right? I think, yeah, it was October when it entered shadow. So that's a long time, right? Very long time. Let me just see. Yeah, it was October when it entered shadow. So a lot of forward moving energy now. And we've done a lot of work. So to sum it up, I would say that we've done a lot of intense work related to releasing the past, whether it's old patterns, old thought processes, subconscious stuff in the past 6-8 weeks, even the past 2 years, because Saturn has been there. And we are preparing ourselves for all the changes that have already started coming in, and more, and all the other changes that will come in as we progress through this year. Next year is when all these changes will be here for good. This year is we'll see those changes, then we'll kind of go back into figuring out what we need to let go of to be able to step into those changes fully. So yeah, I think I'll leave it at that today, and I hope this video was helpful, and I will see you guys next time. Have a great day. Bye.